Right, so one of the less well-publicised stories of the recent by-elections was the resignation of the chair of Uxbridge and South Ruislip constituency Labour Party, Davey Williams, coming in the aftermath of Labour's defeat. Oh well, no great loss, some of you might think. He oversaw a by-election defeat. Labour should have won. Labour should have won, we were told. But actually, he and the CLP didn't, because the stormtroopers that passed for London Labour took over the entire process to ensure the candidate who stood was Starmer's constituency buddy, Danny Beales, and not the local lad Connor Liberty that the local members had wanted. So first and foremost, Uxbridge was a Labour top-down screw-up. However, the defeat wasn't what pushed David Williams over the edge either, but Starmer's going back on the two-child benefit cap policy had a lot more to do with it, which is needless cruelty after all. It's put hundreds of thousands of kids in poverty, and under his Labour leadership, that won't be reversed, which is sickening. Vote Labour to keep starving kids. Yay. So not only did David not want to remain the Uxbridge CLP chair, he didn't want to remain a Labour member either. In a tweet, he said, "I have resigned as chair of Uxbridge and South Ruislip CLP. I have also resigned my membership of the Labour Party. Politics needs to have principles, or we end up with people like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss running the country." Jeremy Corbyn gave a huge boost to the Labour Party. Well, the last sentence gave Starmeroid hacks all the reason they needed to go on the attack over this, though. And of course, usually first at the beginning of the line, first in the queue, Lee Harpin of Jewish News, to jump right in feet first, as he often does. He couldn't resist a sneer at Williams's resignation tweet, saying, "The reason for Labour's defeat in Uxbridge becomes clearer. A Corbyn-supporting CLP chair will not have helped." It didn't have any impact one iota, though, of course, with the CLP frozen out of the by-election process, taken over by London Labour as it was, and their failure is a distinctly Starmer-flavoured one, slightly bitter, and you can't be sure what's in it because the taste keeps changing. Apparently that's because he kept asking what Sunak's favourite flavour is, because he wanted exactly the same and got different answers. Anyway, strange analogies aside, this was a by-election the bookies said Labour would win. Bet Victor, for example, had Labour on odds to win of 1 to 12, which is a 92.3% chance of winning. The Tories were on 7 to 1, which is just 12.5% chance. Yet they held it. That is what came to pass. Williams was also the subject of an attempted gotcha in a now infamous but no less risible interview by the BBC, conducted horribly by Samantha Simmonds, just hours after David Williams had resigned as CLP chair. And she asked Williams, "Why have you resigned?" To which he answered, "Well, I told the local party secretary several weeks ago that I was resigning, so it's nothing to do with this by-election result. I was very unhappy that the party was. Somebody had criticised me and said I had left-wing fantasies, and my left-wing fantasies were to feed hungry children, make homes affordable, for us to have clean water, and I was just very concerned that nationally the Labour Party wasn't taking a stand, or a strong stand on any of this stuff. And I was putting in a lot of effort to support a party that didn't seem to reflect the desires of myself and many other people that I know." It's a sentiment a lot of us can relate to. He was pushed as to why he didn't resign before then, and that was because he didn't want to damage the party in the run-up to the by-election. So despite how he and his CLP were being treated and how disappointed he already was, he stuck by them. He didn't want to undermine the process, undermine the election. Now, he was told he could have resigned months ago to that. So why didn't you go months ago? You could have gone a lot earlier than that, he was asked by Samantha Simmonds, which is just a stupid question, really, because people arrive at these decisions in their own time. He didn't feel like he wanted to go then, that he was prepared to go then, and later on he did. But then Simmonds, just like Harpin did, you had to bring Corbyn into it, because still he lives rent-free in their heads. Still, the establishment runs scared of the change that he represented, well and truly taken off the table by Starmer and co now, but they have to keep rubbing it in, don't they? Simmonds referred to David Williams' tweet, his resignation tweet, putting his own words back to him that Jeremy Corbyn gave a huge boost to the Labour Party. Yet she had the neck to ask Williams why he brought him up. Well, you raised the tweet in this interview, Sunshine. You explain why it's relevant for starters. But Williams took it on and told her, well, he's been vilified. Everyone is saying what a terrible person he was. Well, he was probably the most honest person in politics today. What he did was he took a fairly ailing Labour Party and made it the biggest democratic socialist party in Europe. And in 2017, we had the best election result that we'd had since the war. And that was despite it being publicised that paid workers within the Labour Party were working against the party, which frustrated many of us immensely. It insulted us. It completely undermined all of our voluntary efforts. Well, that wasn't the response the BBC wanted, though, was it? In fact, I'm amazed he got all of that out uninterrupted. He got that far. But he knew the BBC would do its duty by vested interests, and indeed the Tories who pulled their strings, as the inevitable follow-up came. Simmonds came back with, he didn't manage to win an election, and he was found to have overseen a party that enabled anti-Semitism, didn't he? And there it is. Now, I thought Williams had taken much of this lame-ass interview in his stride, frankly, but this was a bridge too far. And in the sort of situation the BBC tends to hurriedly try to switch back to the studio in, Williams cut her off at that point, saying, no, he didn't. He didn't do that. Is the BBC going to continue to say that Jeremy Corbyn was anti-Semitic? Now, following Simmonds' protestations to the contrary, that she was referring to the party and not Corbyn directly, smart, that would have been libelous after all. Not that her assertion, after all, was any more honest, though. But Williams then went on to say the results into that by various bodies have said that it wasn't. So why are you saying it was? She did cut off at that point. Samantha Simmonds has been rinsed subsequently for that interview, I think justifiably. It was pathetic to go down that road in an effort to functionally paint a guy who was resigned for being sick of Starmer as some disgruntled Corbynista, unhappy at the direction so many people have become, disgusted by the red Tory actions of Keir Starmer, and let's ram anti-Semitism into that conversation once again too. But adding even more to this story now is the fact Samantha Simmonds, it would appear, was a pro-Israel youth activist with the Zionist youth movement habonim dror once upon a time, which puts an entirely different slant on her bringing the subject of anti-Semitism and Jeremy Corbyn up in that interview, doesn't it? Make of that what you will. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel if you did. New content out daily. Meanwhile, here's another video where you might like where the Selby and Ainsty by-election went decidedly Labour's way, you would think, but was that the whole story? Did it entirely go that way? Yeah, I have a few issues with that, and well, I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.